So that led me to search for a more comprehensive type of healing methodology. So in 2007, I learned this Herme school of Qigong that involved a bit of a spiritual healing, use of mantras and things like that. Yeah, and again, I found that to only a limited extent that we can help certain people. Because after that, I started a class in 2007, a weekly Sunday class, and we have a lot of people who come to us for various issues. Some were just physical problem that, of course, you can use a qigong to solve it. But some were due to some karmic issues, and some were some what I call affliction in negative entities and things like that. So I began to search for a more comprehensive method to help those people. So in around 2015, I managed to find a Taoist group through a website, and the website was based in UK. So I was what call impressed by what the website told me about their school, which is called the Tai Sangmen Xiao Yao Pai, and they were the one who were teaching this art called the art of is Tao Yin Su, and I was corresponding with the UK administrator. His name was he was using a Swan what I call a pen name called Swan Daoji, like a Chinese name. So I thought all the while this guy must be Chinese because he could explain very well the methodologies and healing method and what you can what I call improve your skills and all that through this practice of Tao Yin Su. Now, after I checked out the group and read the group testimonial because it was a UK site, then I decided to bring this group into my Qigong group in 2016. And he told me his masters actually are from Indonesia. So they put me in touch with the masters, and I arranged for my first group. That was in 2016, our first group of what I call participant to join. Okay, then that's how we started. Okay, now let me go through this briefly. Okay, so basically, Tao Yin Su is a Taoist art. It's an ancient art, and it's not commonly taught. Maybe we can go to the next slide, please. Yeah, next slide, please. Soon. Okay, so now if you are familiar with the Tao, there's always the Tai Chi diagram, the logo, the black and white. But most people see it as a static black and white picture. But actually, in reality, this is a yin and yang. It's always in motion. The black is always going up and the white is coming down. But of course, most of the time when we see the representation, it's just a black and white picture. But the truth is, it represents the duality of all things in the Tao, that you have the yin and the yang. So there's always the good, even the bad. So there's a duality in things and in everything, and they are always in a state of motion. So that's why you see the Tai Chi black and white. And between the black, there's always a white spot, and between the white part, there's a black spot. So even it symbolizes that, for example, in the darkness, there's also some good, the whiteness. And whereas even in the white part, let's say in the goodness, there's still a little bit of darkness, a little bit of evil. So this is the nature of the Tao, that there is always the yin and yang balance. Okay, we go to the next slide. So it was stated that this ancient man called Pangu was the one who initiated this yin and yang theory. So this yin and yang theory, as you know, it has sort of encompassed most of the what I call ancient Chinese, and even until today, yin and yang theory is being used in many aspects of our life, in medicine, in health, in feng shui, you know. Okay, so next to the next slide. Now, the beginning of the Tao, it was said the first practitioner of this Tao was supposed to be Huang Ti. So that's in the year 2697 BC. So that's we are talking about maybe 4,500 years ago, almost 5,000 years ago. Yeah. So the Huang Ti was supposedly even the practitioner of this Taoyin Su, because Taoyin Su is been defined as the art of divine guidance. And of course, the other great personality that has been what I call propagating the Tao has been this character Lao Tzu. Lao Tzu, of course, was in 600 years BC, and he was supposedly an advisor to the government, emperor at that time. He was also a librarian, one of the chief librarian or something. And when he was dissatisfied with the government, he left and traveled to the west. And the border of China, I think in the what they call the outpost, the border outpost, he left the famous book, or he wrote down the famous book called Tao Te Ching. I think that Tao Te Ching is, until today, I think one of, or maybe the second most translated book in the history. Okay, you can go to the next slide. Yeah. So our group is Tai Sang Men, Xiao Yao Pai. We have some connection to this. Historically, there's some link, because in China, in Henan province, there's an old ancient temple. Of course, it has been renovated over the years, but it has been, in existence for maybe thousands of years. So our group, the name Xiao Yao, actually is from this name. Xiao Yao Guan means, actually the Guan means is actually a temple, but the full name is our Xiao Yao Pai. That means it's a sect. Yeah, and this sect actually the Xiao Yao Pai. This sect actually there is a record in the ancient temple of Baiyun Temple in Beijing. Baiyun Temple, I think, is called White Cloud translated. So our sect, this Tai Sang Men, Xiao Pai, there is a historically has been recorded in this Baiyun Temple in Beijing as one of the Taoist sect. Of course, there were maybe other a number of them in the hundred, because in Taoist school there are always a number of other sects. Some of them, like the famous one, like Zhang Daoling, is also one that, the guy who started it, the surname was Zhang. So for generation until now, the head of the school or the head of the sect has always been passed down through their ancestors until now. So that sect, I think, is also maybe close to 1,000 over years. Okay, next slide. Okay. Now, a lot of people do not have a clear understanding of the Taoist school. Actually, in the Taoist school, there are mainly six branches. The first branch is the Tang Ting Men, and of course, these are mainly involved in, say, the traditional Chinese medicine, herbal medicines, and things like that, to help people to regain their health using the herbs, because herbs also help to promote the qi flow in the body and help to balance. The certain herbs are warm, certain herbs are cool, so that's how we used to treat the body. And the second school is Qigong. But Qigong is a school, a specific area where the practitioner are taught the art of cultivation through the breath, through accumulating of the energy, the breath, and that will help you strengthen your body function and improve your health capacity. And in fact, a lot of school sort of narrow their practices and only maybe concentrate on particular this aspect. But again, this aspect is just on one narrow field, Qigong. Of course, from the Qigong now today, they have evolved into many forms. But this is where today we have this practice of Tai Chi and what we call other form of Qigong. They all actually came from this root. Then you have the Xingjiaomen. Xingjiaomen is a school to cultivate your soul through meditation. So this is basically through long period of meditation. Of course, some of them, most of these like Taoists, they always seek refuge in the mountain and all that, and they specifically practice on this area. And you have the number one is Swan Limen. Swan Limen is where our Taoist school, they research on the science and divinity to on the I Ching and things like that, because I Ching is sometimes also being defined as like a moving program of life. So if you understand the I Ching, that means you know how to balance it, or you can moderate your path, because certain things are maybe predicted in your life, but if you know, or you can use that I Ching to your advantage. So this is also example in warfare and all that, they use some of this part. Yeah. Of course, and then we have a Swan Limen. This is a divinity of this is making something again on prediction using this what I call spiritual methods, using of mantras, using of this talisman to help you. Wukong Men is of course, Wukong Men is basically Wushu. So Wushu, again, some school specialize in this. So for example, the famous Taoist Wushu came from this Wu Tang Shan. So they are the one who specialize more of this self-defense and martial arts. And then we have Zhang Men. This is where there's a school that teach you on the palmistry, facial reading, and of course even feng shui. So actually our school, the Taisang Men, we cover most of this part, at a higher level. But for the basic student, we just teach them the basic thing, which is Taoist. So next slide, please. Okay, this is our founder, our Sufu. the grandfather, our grandmaster, but he passed away in 2019 March. No, just the Chinese New Year, so it was February. Yeah, February 2019 at the age of, I think, close to 91 or 93 or something like that. Yeah. So our Sifu, Li Sang Fu, actually was born in Indonesia, but in the early days, in childhood years, he went back to China and he was a young child, maybe 10, 11, something like that. So at that time, China was in turmoil. This was just before the Second World War, and there were, war years, refugees, and people was, trying to run away from the war. So they were also, because of the war, they were also preparing to leave and go back to Indonesia. At that time, there were some refugees who seek refuge at their place, and some of these people were actually noblemen from the Chinese royalty, and one of them transmitted this teaching of Taoism to our late master. When our late master, when he went back to Indonesia, he specialized in what called Chinese medicine, TCM. Later, he went to Hong Kong University, where he graduated in the TCM certification. So he was a practitioner of this TCM. But what he discovered was, it's better to teach people how to heal themselves than trying to heal people. So he decided that he should expose or teach this Taoism to the masses. Because originally this art was sort of within the confine. Originally it was from the royalty people, because during the war years they had a chance to meet and they transmit this teaching to him. So originally this was always been within an inner circle. And even when the Taoist master, they do not teach widespread. It was spread within their family and maybe friends. But because when he went back to Indonesia and he found that also the Chinese people were being what I call marginalized, because they are a minority, and there were always sometimes kind of a racial riot and things like that. And he thought that this art will help them, first of all to protect them and also to improve their health. So maybe you go to the next slide. So Tao in Su, actually, like just now I have already elaborated, it was originally from the royalty, and of course, by chance, our grandmaster met some of these people during the war years, and they transmit this teaching to him. Okay, next one. Now, in Taoism, there are categorically two main types of practices. Our sect, this Tai Sang Wen, Xiao Pai, is categorized as the Cheng Yi Pai. Cheng Yi Pai means we practice Taoism like the what I call normal people. That means you don't need to give up your job or vacation, or you don't need to go to a secular place to practice. You are free to practice at any time in the house. Yeah. So this is the main difference. The other one, and the Chuan Chen Pai, there's another type. There are mainly those who cater for those people who become the Taoist priests or something like that. So they will go on the full practice, full-fledged practice, and they will maybe move away from society or live in a temple to practice this Taoist spiritual practice. Yeah. So in our school, all of us are encouraged to have a meaningful job. You must have a meaningful job. At the same time, you try to do your practice. So this is the difference. Yeah, the Cheng Fire group. So this is for people like us, normal people. Okay, next one. So what are the basis for this practice of this Taoist Su? What is the main purpose? Of course, I think everybody knows the most important what I call aim in our life is actually to have healthy physical body. Yeah, if you have a healthy physical body, then you have the time to spend the wealth. Yeah, no point having all the wealth and don't have the time to spend the wealth. And how to practice this? You, of course, it's also the state not just of the body; it's a state of the mental body, so that you'll be able to understand. Yeah, in a deep contemplation, you'll be able to practice through the Taoist method how you can strengthen not just the physical body but also the subtle body. Because in Taoism, we also think of beyond life, beyond afterlife. There is just our life, and also there is the what I call the soul. So we place a lot of emphasis and importance that we need to have solidify your soul so that you can have a better rebirth or what I call a higher rebirth. Yeah, or instead of maybe you get a rebirth in a lower realm, or even you come back as someone who is handicapped or something like that. That is because of the soul. If the soul is not strong, this may happen. So that's why there's a lot of study and on this. In fact, in a deeper level, we learn that actually the soul is not just one layer. There were 7 layers. That's why in Chinese we say the San Hun Qi Po. That means you have up to 7 layers of your soul. Okay, next one.